Welcome to Thank You for Your Reply, where we dive deep into the strategies and insights of real estate's most innovative professionals. I'm your host, Rich Pedersen. Each episode, we explore real practices driving success in today's market. No fluff, no pitches, just real conversations with real experts sharing real results. In this episode, we are joined by Will Ferguson of Hybrid Property Management in Baltimore, Maryland. We had a conversation about the ins and outs of property management, as well as a bit about his work in the business brokerage sector with the Baltimore Washington Business Brokerage. Before we dive in, please make sure you like and subscribe. Your engagement helps keep the show running. Without further ado, here we go. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your reply. We're starting the day off today with Will Ferguson from Hybrid Properties, which is a property management company in Maryland. And before we launch into our questions, can you talk a little bit about how you got started in that business and your kind of little nutshell pathway to founding that company?
Sure. So, Rich, I started in property management by managing my own properties. They were small 2-unit, 3-unit apartments. And, while I was doing that and learning the business, I made a ton of mistakes. But one of the things that became clear is that it was important to know a property, to touch a property, and to be able to communicate and anticipate, expenses that would come up down the road.
Yeah, I was reading on your website about one of the reasons that you started the company was because you were a commercial real estate realtor or a broker, and we're seeing a need come up for this kind of management. Is that right?
Actually, that was the entree into commercial property management.
Okay.
So as a commercial realtor, I would sell clients, multifamily units or small medical office suites. And because I'd done the due diligence on the property, the buyer or my client would say, hey, who's going to manage this property for them? So I would throw my hat in the ring and say, listen, let me manage it for you. Here's my agreement. It's simple. It's transparent. And a lot of my clients like that. So that's how I ventured into commercial.
Okay. And hybrid property, though, you're kind of doing residential and commercial there?
That's correct. We're about the 60-40. So 60% commercial, 40% residential.
Okay. And all in the Maryland kind of...
All in the Maryland. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Okay. I'm excited to have you on because I think it's important to show that side of the real estate business as well, not just the residential or like the realtor side of selling. Someone is managing a property if it's being rented out. But so into our questions. So what is your number one source for acquiring new property management contracts right now? And how has that changed over the past few years?
Well, my number one source is really coming from current clients that are buying property from me, and coming from former clients that have, allowed me to manage their properties and have introduced me to other people that are property owners. So that's been my primary source of growth. It's been organic. But what's changing is that people are wanting to, know more about you and wanting to hear about you more frequently. So social media and other influencers are driving people toward, different platforms to learn about property management prior to them just calling you or responding to something on your website.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Things are kind of going that way with everything. It seems like.
Exactly.
Are you on all the social medias and everything? So.
Right.
Yeah. And do you think your portfolio pretty stacked up right now, or you haven't where you have referrals coming in organically?
I definitely have referrals coming in, but not at the rate that I'd like to have them come in. And part of the growth process is as you add properties, at some point you have to add staffing. Whether it's additional leasing agents, whether it's a project manager, or whether it's additional vendors. You just have to be mindful that you don't get ahead of yourself and commit to something that you can't perform on.
Can you walk us through your most successful marketing strategy for attracting property owners that doesn't involve paid advertising, if you have any?
Yeah, so from a paid advertising standpoint, I haven't utilized those vehicles yet. I think from the most successful campaign is really been all hands on deck, letting the vendors, my leasing agent, my handyman, letting them know that I'm interested in growing and in having new clients. They touch people every day and every week. And if they're now thinking, hey, wow, I should be telling this person about hybrid properties. I should be asking them if they want to have a conversation about their properties. I should be talking to them about we make a proposal. If I get everybody around me engaged in understanding that I'm interested in growing, I think people get, they get excited about that because that's opportunity for them as well.
I saw also on your website that you're hiring, was it a facilities manager?
Yeah.
Just
Project
putting that out
manager,
there.
facilities manager. Yeah.
Putting it out there. Anyone listening to this that's looking for a job in the Maryland area? What's one common belief about property management success that you found to be completely wrong?
I think the common belief that property owners have is that the property manager simply just collects the money and responds only when something's broke. And so I think the reality is you can't respond well if you don't know the property and the tenant. And yes, we have to respond, but we also have to have conversations around, being proactive and preventative, basically. So if we see something and it's better to fix it now before it's going to cost more to fix or it's going to injure somebody, it's best for us to have that conversation and get it done. So that is the thing I think that is a myth that, all we do is sit around, all property management companies do is sit around and collect money and react if something breaks. And that doesn't serve anyone, actually. It doesn't serve the property manager because you're going to lose a client at some point, and it doesn't serve the client because the property management company is really insurance. It's there to ensure that if something happens, the worst case scenarios is no heat in the winter. The worst case scenarios are, I have a flood or a leak. So it's not just those scenarios, it's the little things that add up to the big things, like not changing your air filters. And now all of a sudden your air conditioning doesn't work because your system's jammed up. So those type of things are very important.
Preventative maintenance. Mm-hmm. And do you have, just out of curiosity, are you, depending on how many properties you have, that there would be a lot of information to track in terms of start and end dates of leases, like maintenance necessity, maintenance needs that are routine versus ones that pop up from emergencies. How do you keep all that straight?
That's a great question. So I started with the good old fashioned legal pad. I moved to spreadsheets, and now I'm using a product called Hemlane. And it's out of the West Coast. And the thing I like about it is, first of all, it makes the collecting of rents and the paying of distributions to owners seamless. It's all right there on the dashboard. It's ACH, so there's no fees for either party. And I really like that. But it also allows you to see documents, messages and conversations, create private notes. It allows you to see all of that real time. And so I think that is a real good resource and has improved our processes. And then when you match that up with creating a communication schedule with your clients, I think it's, if we're going to touch the properties twice, 4 times a year, we should be talking to our clients about what's happening with those properties every month, every other month. So we have a scheduled communication meeting so we can say, here's what's happening. Here's when your leases are renewing. Here's what I anticipate is preventative maintenance. Here's what you've done last month. Here's how your property's performing. You're 80, 90%, occupied. You're making your market rent. The tenant's appreciative of being in your building or being in your home.
So how do you structure your typical work day to maximize productivity while managing multiple properties and maintaining your work-life balance, if you even get to do that?
That's another good question, and it's always changing. But fundamentally, I'm a night owl, but I've trained myself to be an early morning person. So I start off in the morning with really some prayer time, some exercise, and some reading. Try to get up to date on current events, make sure I'm reading about my industry and reading kind of the top news stories. And then I get my day started around 7. So if I can knock out some things before 8 or 9 every day, it kind of gets me ahead of the inbound traffic that's coming in. 'Cause you know it's coming.
Yeah.
And so,
Like a freight train.
I try to prioritize the things that A, I've made a commitment to, and B, the things that are important. And that's how I generally do my Monday through Friday. It's a 7 to 7 type schedule. And then on Saturdays, I work by appointment.
Okay. So you're getting up, you're a night owl, but you get up at 7 to.
Yeah, it's really a retraining of myself.
Yeah.
Because organically I would stay up all night and maybe work till 9 or 10. But if I know that I can get in the bed at 10 and get my, 6.5 to 7 hours will take care of it for me. Get that in. Then I know that in the morning I can get up and I can get a fresh start on things. And, just to add another layer. So I'm laying out my weeks 2 weeks in advance. So I know what's out there, big picture, and then I'm filling in based on the things that come up and the things that, I have commitments around.
You stay organized.
Well,
You've figured out how to do that.
I'm not suggesting I'm always successful, but I'm actually nibbling at it every day.
Yeah. All we can do is try.
That's right.
What's been your most successful or effective strategy for standing out in a crowded property management market?
I think it's transparency and communication. The thing that I'm learning is that people, A, don't understand what's involved, even in managing their own property, the property that they live in. And the second piece is trust. If you create a regular communication schedule and you're sharing with people your knowledge, you're sharing with people your desire for their property to improve, and what the demographics and the statistics are saying about their community, and you're just you're really a cheerleader as well as an insurance policy for them. If you're behaving in that way, I think people really get it at some point that it's not about one customer or one property. It's really about the mission in general. And that is just to run a nice, clean operation.
Yeah. So the theme is communication. You've touched on a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want anybody to ever say, well, Will's missing in action or his team doesn't respond. That's not something I'm committed.
Can you share a major mistake you made early in your property management career and what you learned from it?
How much time
or in your real estate career as well?
How much time do you have? So the biggest mistake I've made, I think, in the beginning was befriending tenants. And I think what's important is that when you have a relationship with tenants, I always treat people with respect. When you have a relationship with tenants or with landlords, you should refer to your agreement as the basis of your relationship. That doesn't mean you don't laugh and joke and talk about, kids and holidays and the football game. What it means is if there's a question or an issue or a discussion that you're having, you always have to refer back to, how did we get here? What's the nature of our relationship? All right. You're a tenant. You're someone that we want to treat with hospitality. And we want to prevent things not only for us, but for you. So you don't have any disruptions to your lifestyle. So that's important. And I think the other thing for property owners is, hey, listen, this is what we agreed to do. Sometimes we can make an exception at our expense, but most of the time we can't because the property management is not a high margin business. It's really, a little bit of, again, insurance for the property owners. And it's relying on, the owners are relying on someone having trusted vendors at different quality levels to come in and do the right job for their property, to keep their property, their property's value up and to make sure that, people are comfortable and safe.
Kind of dovetailing into that, from that question is, how do you build and maintain relationship with both property owners and tenants to ensure the long-term contracts and referrals? So you're sitting there in the middle between these two
Yeah.
opposing parties, sort of.
Yeah, I try to stay out of the middle because the middle is difficult. So my leasing agents will have a relationship with the tenants. I try not to have a direct relationship with them. And, when they do their inspections, at least once a year, they're going to be bringing them a list of preventative things they can do, like they can have gift cards for some food at the grocery store. They can have um, what you call those filters for the kitchen sink, so the trash doesn't clog up the disposal. They can bring the tenants would be responsible for the filter changes, but they may bring a set of filters with them, you know, and change it while they're there, by the way, because they probably, not changed it. So it's just being that way, like giving them new ideas and new things to consider. Amazon sells these things, these little plastic lips that go between the stove, and it prevents the dirt from going down, which not only creates food for rodents, but it creates another cleaning issue. So if you can prevent that and give the tenants a $5 set of that, that's a home run for everybody. So, you know, from a leasing agent standpoint, it's about being there to kind of support them and understand, what their skills are. Some of the tenants are immaculate when it comes to housekeeping, and some of them aren't. But, you can help them with the basic things. From a landlord standpoint, it's really about going beyond just the property. See, the property is a means to the end. It's not like their life. They have other obligations, could be family, could be businesses, could be a number of things. So it's really about going beyond that and having those type of conversations that maybe start with the property, but expand beyond that. And I read this book years ago in my career, and it was by Harvey McKay, who's an old guy, and it was about how to swim with the sharks without being eaten alive. And one of the things he did is he built, before we had the internet, he built this dynamic profile on all of his clients. He knew everything about them. And the thing that made that important is he sold envelopes. Now, I can't find anything more generic than that. And so he made this ability to sell envelopes like, amazing. And so that's what it boils down to. It's called knowing your people. Nobody really cares what you know until they know how much you care. That's really what it boils down to.
That was the book was called.
The book was called How to Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive. It's an old book, probably been reprinted a billion times, but the fundamentals still work.
Okay. I'll put that in the show notes as well.
Awesome.
Some people can look it up. So I think you kind of touched on this earlier, and this might be your answer to this question, but what's one property management software or system in your business that you couldn't live without, and why?
That would be Himlane. Now, there's other systems I'm adding. Like there's this program called Company Cam, and what it does is, and I've just been experimenting with it, so bear with me if I'm not as thorough as I could be, but it takes pictures. It's on a high pixel level, so it's better than my phone. It allows me to take pictures and videos, and it allows me to collaborate with the leasing agents and the vendors and the handyman. So it's a platform that has an app on your phone. You take the pictures. Everybody has access to the pictures. You can add notes both to the pictures and to the videos, and it gives you something that you can collaborate with that's high definition. And you can use those pictures for marketing as well if if you're doing a before and after type look. So that's another piece of technology I'm working with now.
We'll put those in the show notes as well.
Okay.
How do you handle challenging market conditions like rising maintenance costs or rental market fluctuations, and when you talk to property owners?
I think it's really about, again, just being able to anticipate that that's going to happen. For example, in my region, they raise the property taxes every 3 years. So we have to take a look at, annually, what are our increases? What are they going to look like? What do we need to pay the bills? And what can we afford to collect, or what would dissuade our tenants from staying? So we have to make some of those decisions. We also have the pressure coming from the utility companies and coming from the municipality water people. So we have all of those things happening simultaneously. So it's the first thing you want to do is kind of get ahead of it a little bit and anticipate what you're going to need so you can structure your leases in a way that your increases offset some or all of those expenses. But the other thing, and this is whether you're dealing with the property owners or you're dealing with the tenants, you have to have some flexibility. You may have to eat some of those expenses just to maintain a relationship that's been in place. I can tell you one thing, if your property taxes go up and you have a place occupied, it's a lot better than if your property taxes go up and you have a vacancy, because then there's the cost associated with replacing that person, redoing or turning that unit around. And so if you can avoid those costs, it's the right thing to do. So it's really about being, flexible and trying to partner with, with the landlord so they have options and they can see what you see. They can see, well, look, here are the numbers if I go aggressive and try to get a 5 or 6% increase, there's no rent control in my area. Or here's what makes sense if I want to keep this tenant for another year or two. Maybe I need to settle in for a 2 or 3% increase. Because the tenants, they have the same pressure as well.
Yeah, true. And what are they getting paid? Well, what's inflation doing?
Yeah.
So some of that you would kind of treat by the communication that we were talking about earlier, and
that's correct.
Looking ahead and communicating maintenance, and
that's correct. It's forecasting what those costs are or going to be, and then being able to say to yourself and say to everyone involved, here's what is a reasonable decision, and here are some alternatives.
We're down to, this is our last question, our last official question. What's one skill you think most property management professionals overlook, but is crucial for long-term success?
I think it's the skill of really that relationship. This is not just a transaction. This is not just something that people are doing to kind of, play at it. This is something that's a part of what their overall plan is. Like, what's their end game? And understanding and wanting to understand what that is and how this piece fits in, I think is important. I think a lot of property managers forget that. They want to kind of hold people by the book. They want to say this is what our agreement provides and no, we can't do that. Well, you can do almost anything with the owner's permission and if it makes sense, but and if it's within the law. But you don't. I don't believe in strong arming the clients. I believe in trying to be flexible and having that relationship that's deeper than the transaction at hand. And I think that's an opportunity that a lot of property managers miss.
I wanted to also give you an opportunity to talk about the other work that you're doing with correct me again, I've got exactly the name of it, Maryland Business Advisory Board. Was that what it was?
Well, actually, so the property management company is a small company that I own, but a company that I own that's really on a growth pattern is Baltimore, Washington Business Brokerage. And what we do is we help business owners sell their businesses. We help business owners grow through acquisition. And we do opinions of value when people inherit businesses or there's a partnership, breakup or someone wants to sell a piece of the company. We'll do an opinion of value so they know what they have to share. And that company's been in the market since '89, worked for the founder of that company for approximately 9 years. And 3 years ago, I brought that company. So some of the same commitments and communication and transparency that I have in the property management business transfers over to, BW Brokerage. And it's amazing how things go in a circle. So you help somebody sell a business, they're happy with you. And then the next thing you know, they want you to manage some properties that they have that you didn't even know they had, because you were focused on, the job at hand. So that does occur, but not as frequently as I like it to, but it does occur.
How much time do you have to divide between those two entities?
Great question. So I have an executive assistant who helps me manage kind of the general flow. I have a CRM system for the BW Brokerage platform, and I have 3 advisors. So I'm probably focused about 60% on that, and then I'm focused on the property management side the balance of the time, 30, 40% of the time.
Because you in your property management company, you have leasing agents and all that. You said
Leasing agents, I'm handymen, I have vendors that I trust. And, the key is the way you build trust with vendors is you first of all, you interview them and you assess what their capabilities are. You follow up on their work, and then you pay them. And I don't mean like pay them based on their terms. I try to pay all of my vendors within 2 weeks. So if I call, they know that I want to be first in line. I want to be the guy that they go, we got to take care of hybrid properties because they always pay us, they always tell us what they need. They send us back up, pictures and documentation to make our job easier. So that's the relationship I want to have.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Ferguson, for talking to us today. So we appreciate your time.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate the opportunity.
That wraps up the second episode of Thank You for Your Reply. A big thank you to Will Ferguson for sharing your valuable insights with our community. To our listeners, you can find show notes and links below this video, or if you're on audio, it's be in the show description. If you enjoyed the episode, please like and subscribe so you'll be able to catch the new episodes when they drop. Until next time, keep innovating, keep growing, and remember, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.